Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Janamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharni Nivasesa Srinyavadi Paschatadesa Dharani. Srila Prabhupada used to sing that before giving class, so do the same thing. So we can read from chapter 9, text 23, on page 403. You ready? Okay. So I'll chant the verse, and you can also chant. Ye piyanya devata bhakta yajante shwadayan vitaha tepi mam eva kunteya yajanti avidipurvakam. Do it again. Ye pinanya devata bhaktya, ye pe anyanta devata bhaktya, yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kaunteya yajanti avidhipurvakam. Yea, this is word synonyms. Those who, you can repeat it. Yeah. Api, also. Anya, of other. Devata, gods. Bhakta, devotees. Yajante, worship. Shraddhaya anvitaha, with faith. Te, they. Api, also. Mam, me. Eva, only. Kaunteya, O son of Kuntī. Yajanti, they worship. Avidhi purvakam, in the wrong way. Translation. Those who are devotees of other gods and to worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kuntī, but they do so in a wrong way. You can repeat after me. Those who are devotees of other gods and to worship them with faith actually worship only me, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer them some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as a vidipurvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kuntī, but they do so in a wrong way. So, there are demigods who live in the higher planets that are tasked with control of various aspects of the universe. And, for example, our bodies. Our bodies are remotely controlled. We're not in control. When you walk down the street and you stub your toe, was that your plan? No. Do you know how the food is being digested? No. Do we know how our brains are working? No. We don't know anything. But it's working. So how is that? How is it working? Because there are demigods in the higher planets who are controlling every aspect. And they control every aspect of nature. And we know we have Surya, the sun god, and Indra, the king of heaven, and we have Bhumi. Bhumi is the deity of the earth. And we have, like I said, Surya is the sun god. And so many demigods in these heavenly planets. Okay. So they're very powerful. And in the Vedas, there are directions that if you want a certain thing, that you can worship this particular demigod and get what you want. But the worship is more or less kind of a business deal. Kind of like, okay, I'll offer this worship to goddess Uma, or goddess Saraswati, or goddess or that goddess, or this god or that god, to get something that you want that didn't come automatically. Something that you had a particular desire. But the real truth is that they cannot actually give you what you want. Their ability is given by Krishna. Okay, everyone is subordinate to Krishna. There isn't any living being anywhere in the existence that doesn't bow to Krishna, the Supreme Lord. From our point of view, we may not understand that. Perhaps we have some knowledge of some demigod or something, and we want to, maybe we want to go to heaven, or we want this or that, we want a beautiful wife, or we want a strong and healthy body, or we want money, or some big position. People pray for all kinds of things. And most people who are not aware of Krishna, if they can get something to enjoy, they're very happy. But the truth is that we don't really understand who we actually are. Every living being is a servant of Krishna. A servant of Krishna means you are aware of Krishna and you understand that he is worthy of our worship, he is worthy of our service and our love. But we don't, I'm saying we rhetorically, I'm not saying you particularly, but when I grew up, I was driving here and I was thinking, here I'm going to be asked to give a class on Bhagavad Gita to people who already know a lot more about Bhagavad Gita than I do. Where I grew up, I didn't know a single person from India. I had no friends or anyone that I knew that was from India. And my particular town, we had very few Oriental people. We had no black people, maybe a few Hispanic people. But I had no idea. I'd never heard of Krishna. Can you imagine that? How anyone could not know who God is? But we don't know in the Western countries. And Srila Prabhupada came here to give us the understanding of who we actually are and who God really is. Now, that's not to say that we don't have religions. We certainly have Christianity and Judaism and other, I didn't grow up with anyone Muslim, but there are many religions through the world. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no one equal to him, no one greater than him. So, in this universe, the Vedas say that this world is more or less like a prison. We don't like to think like that. We're in prison? I can do whatever I want. I'm not in prison. But actually, that's what the Veda describes this material world to be, like a prison house. Okay? We can't really go where we want. I'd sure love to go to check out some heavenly planet, but it's not happening. We don't have the ability, at least in this body. Okay, so we are under control. And if we think that we're not under control, then we have to think again, because there are many things that are going on, as I said before. We don't even know how our bodies are working. But it's working, so someone must be doing it. We're not aware of it. Our senses are not aware of it. Okay. But as human beings, we have the ability to understand. We can understand there are things going on beyond ourselves, from higher beings. And all throughout the world, in every society, even in Aborigines, they recognize something, whatever it is, something superior. There's always some type of worship. It's even for prosperity or for the success of growing crops, that we worship somebody or something to be successful. So this is the prerogative of human life, is to understand what's it all about, right? What's it all about, Alfie? We should understand that we are under control. So who or what is controlling us? How are things going on? I can't see them. Why should I believe that there's something out there? Okay? So it has to do with free will. If you don't want to understand something, or if you suppose you think there's no sun, you don't want to open your eyes because you don't want to actually admit that there is one. But we have come here to this material world from Krishna's world, the spiritual world, due to some unfortunate circumstances. We somehow became envious. We want to be like Krishna. We want to be the enjoyer. We want to be the proprietor. We want to be the friend of everyone. We want people to serve us. Even though we are actually serving all the time, we don't think of ourselves as servants. We think of ourselves as enjoyers. And so this is a misunderstanding. Every living being is thinking that I'm basically the center of existence. I have my family and my teachers and my friends and everything, I, me, mine. But actually, we are very tiny servants of Krishna. And the Vedas describe that the size of the soul is subatomic. Even though we have this body, I'm 6 feet tall, I weigh 160 pounds, whatever. And this is me. Well, actually, I'm inside the body. We are inside the body. I'm looking at my hand. Who is looking? Okay, is my hand self-aware? Well, I feel things, but I feel my presence somewhere in this thing, but I'm the observer. We are the observer, not the thing that we're observing, right? I have my clothing and so on, but I'm not this. I'm not my hand. I'm not my leg. I'm not my face. Point to yourself. Where is yourself? So we really don't know who we are. But scientifically, you can't see the soul because it's too small. It's described in the Vedas. If you take a hair from your head and cut it into 100 parts, take one of those parts, cut it into another 100 parts. That's pretty small. That's the size of the soul. That's how big we are. So even in the body of an amoeba, if it has symptoms of life, there's a soul there. And we have, sperm whales and rhinoceroses and elephants. There's a soul in those bodies. And every body that has life is the proof that there's a soul present. When the soul isn't present, the body deteriorates and disappears. So we are under a big illusion because this is an imitation world. Where God is the enjoyer in the spiritual world, He's given us a kind of sandbox to play in. It's also described, like I say, a material world is like a prison. We are taken here so that we can fulfill desires. The whole world is running on desire. Okay? So if we don't want to see Krishna, we don't want to understand that there's actually a Supreme Lord, He puts us in a world where everyone is forgetful. And we don't see Him. We don't think about Him. We just, the world is as it is, and maybe it just sort of came about by a big bang, right? The big bang, and somehow, everything evolved. Okay? So this is the position that we're in. This is why human life is very important. We have to understand who we are And what is our relationship with this world, and what is the relationship with God? Or is there one? Okay. I find most people are not really atheists, because atheists are just dead set against God. Most people just don't know. And it's, out of sight, out of mind. What does God have to do with me, even if there is one? I'm living my life, everything is going on fine. Why do I need to understand God? Okay. So setting that question aside, why do we have to grow old, and why do we have to get disease, and why do we have to die? These are all questions that human beings can ask. A dog can't do that. A kangaroo, a giraffe, they're too busy trying to stay alive. But human beings have the opportunity, and especially in civilized society, we have the opportunity to understand who we are and what is our relationship with the universe, and why these things are going on. We just went through a year and a half of a pandemic, and we know what happened, but why? Why do calamities happen? I'm trying to be a good person. Aren't we all trying to be a good person and do the best we can for ourselves and our families? I mean, why do calamities happen? Why does somebody get in an auto accident, or someone dies untimely, or get some disease, you get cancer, or whatever? Why? Most of the time we ask that question, we get an answer to a question which is more like, how? Why did I get cancer? Well, you got cancer because you ate something wrong, or you had a bad lifestyle. No, the real question is to step back and say, why are we suffering? Why is there suffering in the world? Why is someone seemingly, happy over here, who's got a silver spoon, born in a nice rich family and a big house and everything, and someone's born over here in poverty? He doesn't have any, those who have been in India, I see so many beggars on the street. They have one lota. That's all they own. They drink out of it, they bathe with it, They don't have anything. And then right next to it is, some big billionaire or whatever. Why does this happen? So Krishna has given us scriptures which are handed down to the human society through a chain of succession. Okay? It would be very cruel if he didn't do that. If you make something, you buy something, there's usually an owner's manual, something to help you understand what it is you got and what the features are, and how to use it. Okay. So the scriptures are given to us by Krishna through the disciplic succession, and there are actually 4 different lines. And we are in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, from Srila Prabhupada through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. We're getting this information, okay, that there is a Supreme Person above all, and that we are all his servants. And the way to understand the Supreme Person is to hear about him. This is the most important thing. How do we know about someone? If you want to find out about something, you have to hear about him. If you walk down the street, if you didn't know who Mr. Biden was, you'd think that he was just some ordinary person. But if you are aware of things, then you know that he's the president of the country. So when Krishna came 5,000 years ago, only a handful of people knew who he was. Everyone else thought, well, he's very powerful, he's very popular, or whatever they were thinking. They didn't understand that he was the Supreme Lord above all, and the origin of everything that exists. Only a handful of people knew. Okay, so Krishna gives us this world and puts us under an illusion so that we can fulfill our desires, right? All the animals and all the living beings in this world are looking for happiness, because that's the natural condition of the soul. We are naturally happy. But when we have this body, then the body has troubles. We have to be born, we have to grow up and get educated. There's so many trials and tribulations. Then we dwindle and we have to die. So it behooves us as human beings to understand why. What are we doing here? We have to get out of this illusion. We have to understand things as they are. Okay, otherwise you're suffering. So ignorance, Prabhupada said, is the cause of suffering. Okay, so you're walking down the street, the light's red, you go through the red light, and all of a sudden the flashing red lights, and you pull over and you get a ticket and you have to pay a fine. Okay, you have to know. You can't say, well, I didn't know what that red light meant. So in this world, there is a strict policy under karma. Whatever you do is examined, and there will be a reaction for it. And you can't avoid it. You can't avoid doing something. You have to do something. Okay. So how many of you know that's the backstory of the Bhagavad Gita, where it came from? Okay, you know. One part of the Mahabharat, right? Okay, so the Mahabharat, who does not know about the Mahabharat, who has not heard about Mahabharat? Everybody knows. Okay. So there's a lead up to the battle of Kurukshetra, and the Bhagavad Gita is spoken just before the beginning of beginning of the battle. So Arjuna is thinking that I'm fighting this war for myself because my cousins have usurped the kingdom, they've stolen it, and we're fighting to gain the rightful, occupation of the throne. Okay. So when Arjuna is about to begin the war, he tells Krishna, can you just take me to the front so I can, kind of gauge who we're fighting here? So Krishna says, okay, there's your grandfather, there's your teacher, there's, all these people. And Arjuna got cold feet. Wait a minute. I don't want to kill these people. And he came up with all spontaneously came up with all these good reasons why he shouldn't fight, right? Well, if we kill all the warriors, their wives will be unprotected, then there'll be unwanted children born, and all kinds of very ethical and moral reasons why not to fight the Battle of Kurukshetra. Why should we do this? In fact, he said, okay, look, I can't do it. Forget about it. I will not do it. I'm not going to fight. He put his bow and arrows down and sat down, and I can't go through with this. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken for our benefit. He's talking to Arjuna because he put Arjuna under the little whammy. He put Arjuna under an illusion so that he could say the things that he wanted to say, using Arjuna as like a sounding board. That Arjuna already understood all of this. Okay. But he spoke the Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of all humankind. That we are eternal souls, that our bodies are not. As we go through life, our bodies go from boyhood to youth to old age, and similarly, at the end, when one passes away, he gets another body. So the soul can't die. So he explains to Arjuna, wait, look, you may be supposedly killing your grandfather, this one and that one, but you're killing their bodies. They can't be killed. Okay? So there's no need to lament for them. Okay? So, and he goes on, Krishna explains everything about life in this world, about karma. He talks about the fact that we are eternal, okay? But he also explains that even though we have to act, he doesn't tell Arjuna, okay, fine, just go off and meditate. He doesn't say it like that. He says this, Arjuna. He says, Arjuna, you're the greatest warrior in the world. And if you run away, I mean, the heaps of derision and teasing and taunting and it's worse than death. You've been, lauded for being this fantastic warrior, and you run away, they'll all call you a coward. And what to speak of me, you're my friend. Okay, so he's not discouraging Arjuna from doing his duty. Okay? The real renunciation is giving up the fruit. He says, in other words, Arjuna, you're really not fighting for yourself. If you surrender to me, I have a greater plan. I have a plan here. And I want you to be part of the plan. I want you to take the credit for doing something that I have already arranged. Krishna said, you can take credit for it or not. You can run off to the forest, whatever you want. But I have already arranged all these soldiers are going to die. It's a done deal. Okay. So we really are not doing anything. We go through so many activities, but it's all being done externally. The tiny, 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 tiny soul that we are, we can't really do anything. We're very tiny. But Krishna arranges everything so that we can believe that we're doing so many things. Okay? So thinking, feeling, and willing, we move through life, but actually what's being observed is what we're thinking, feeling, and willing. You may want to do something that's beneficial, but maybe it's misdirected, or maybe we had a good intention, but something went wrong. Right? Many people throughout the world are being criticized because the result of what they wanted to do was didn't work out, it was bad, people got hurt or whatever. But they may have had a good intention. All of this is understood. Krishna knows everything about everyone. Krishna knows everything about everything, anything. So the point is, the Bhagavad Gita has spoken that our only duty as human beings is to surrender to Him, to dedicate our lives to Him. And it doesn't mean giving up your occupation, doesn't mean giving up having a family, or doing whatever you're doing. But there are certain activities that are discouraged because they hamper the process of self-realization. And that is eating non-vegetarian food, taking intoxicants, gambling, and having illicit sex. These things are very detrimental to spiritual life. And they produce bad karma, unfortunately. But the point is not simply to counteract bad karma by doing something good, like saying so many Hail Marys, or even chanting the Maha Mantra is not to be done just to counteract our bad karma. It is a totally separate thing. It is not pious activity, as we normally think about it. It is pious, but that's not the point. The point is to develop our relationship with Krishna. We all have a relationship with Krishna that we forgot. And because we have this misgivings, I'm not talking you in this audience, but people in general, don't really want to see God, because that'll blow their whole trip. The whole idea is coming here is I don't want to see Him. So this is kind of swimming upstream a little bit. We have to look within ourselves and see that, well, I'm trying to enjoy in different ways, but actually my real position is to serve Krishna. And if you actually engage in service, and the first service is hearing, what you're doing right now. So even though we're not running a class like a college class, it's not academic. The process of hearing is purification. And as we purify ourselves by chanting Hare Krishna, eating the prasad offered to Krishna, right? And then maybe telling someone about Krishna. I happen to be a piano tuner, so I had a client yesterday. She was a Christian. She was from Hong Kong, and her husband was a Buddhist. But I arrived and worked on the piano for about 2 hours, and I was there about 5 hours. The rest of the time, we were talking about spiritual life, about Krishna consciousness. And she was just lapping it up. She just loved it. I gave her Bhagavad Gita, Science of Self-Realization, and I'm going back in a couple of weeks. I'll give her the Prabhupada video, the latest one. We all went to the theater to see. So people are out there. And people need to know and want to know. Some people do. And others don't. Unfortunately, we go distribute books to people, and a lot of people are just plain not interested. Or, and Krishna has, described that different kinds of people don't surrender to me. So we try to find those who are innocent, those who are receptive, and try to give prasadam or, let them hear the holy name. So someday, perhaps they'll have a change of heart, whatever. So, is there any questions or any comments? Hare Krishna. Oh, you're talking about this verse? Yeah. Okay. Why is it wrong to worship the demigods? Is that right?
Yeah, I did not understand the depth. What's the depth of it? Like, philosophical sense. Even though they do so wrong.
Okay. In this verse, Krishna describes that it is, and Prabhupada explains, the demigods are devotees of Krishna. They're all serving Krishna. Okay. But as Prabhupada explained, it's like you're offering worship for something that which is temporary. Okay. Is it? Yeah, it's temporary. It's in the Vedas. There's something for everybody. Yeah, there's something for everybody. So it's like a big tent, right? You get everybody under the tent. There's something that, there's a sideshow over here, there's some some freaks over there, something, to attract everybody. So in the Vedic umbrella, I would call it a Vedic umbrella, there's something for everyone. Right? If you have strong desires, okay, you want a certain thing, okay, so you can worship this demigod, okay, but it's not recommended. It's not recommended because it's kind of wasting your time, and it's ignoring the big elephant in the room, which is that Krishna is the person that awards all the desires that we have, and these demigods, they also have material desires. Okay, that's something that took me a long time to understand. The demigods are very, very exalted souls. Okay, they have very big responsibility, and if they do any offense or do anything wrong, they go to hell. Okay, because when you get a big position, you have a lot of responsibility, and if you do something wrong, there's very, very serious consequences. But the demigods worship the pure devotees. Okay, Indra, I mean, Narada Muni comes, right? Everybody is, bowing down to Narada Muni or any other great sage because they're pure devotees of Krishna. Okay, so someone who's worshiping demigods, I mean, there's some false ego there, Oh, wow, they're worshiping me. I'll be glad to, give some benediction. But Krishna condemns it. I mean, we all know the story of them. This is Giri Govardhan lifting Govardhan Hill because and Krishna had told the townspeople, don't worship Indra. We worship Govardhan Hill instead because, we don't need to worship Indra, right? So Indra got all offended and all upset, and, so they have false egos and stuff like that, I think you know what I'm talking about. I think, yeah. Hare Krishna. So anyone else have come? I think I talked too long. Right. So what happens? Prasad, you're going to have Tulsi or just do Prasad? Thank you very much. I'll go to Shishila Prabhupada.